This way.
This way.
That way.
And we're
this
live.
Way, and we're live.
Hello.
Hello.
La, la, la. Hello, all. Welcome. It is
Monday. At night.
Monday night generational change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and right now the Bucks are kicking the Eagles' butts.
Is that really true?
Right
I
now.
haven't been watching, so I'm pleased to hear that.
Bucks kicking butts.
I'm not averse to the Eagles in any way. I just, being somebody from Florida growing up here, I will always have sort of a soft spot in my heart for the Buccaneers. And I will delete the Tom Brady seasons.
Can't delete them. There is a Super Bowl attached to them.
That's funny because that's like that season I totally wasn't cheering for them.
So obviously it was NFL wildcard weekend. We did socialize a little bit on Saturday evening. We went out and watched the game.
We socialized with each other.
Yes.
That's what he means to say is that he and I socialized with each other in a public place. So
Portland, I am sorry, but I simply cannot agree. I just can't.
Let me explain.
I'm a Giants fan.
And he'll tell you, I actually do like the Eagles. My husband's always been like the Eagles. He was a Randall Cunningham fan. So
I did like Randall Cunningham.
Okay. But no. And as a kid, family friends were from Philly. The first time I flew on a plane by myself was to Philadelphia. I always liked the uniforms. My favorite color is green. So need I go on? So I have no issue.
The color of money.
No, the color of trees.
Oh.
Yeah. So, that existed before the money. But so I'm with you. I actually do like Philly. I have no problem with Philly. And I really do know that they're a superior team.
Steve Grossman.
Hi, Steve Grossman. But yes, the Bucks are the Bucks,
Yes, and could they hang on? Very likely, but
I don't really have a horse in your race.
The sad truth about the weekend is that the Miami Dolphins played in one of the coldest games in history of the NFL.
I'm so proud of my team. Like, I don't even get I'm so pleased. Like, I'm just happy. I'm happy I have a team.
But I remember when we sat down and I remember saying to you, I said, it's really cold there. Like, I didn't even know. Like I said, it's got to be at least in the
cold.
20s.
Like scarily cold. I think it was lower than that.
No, but that's not the point. The point is I told you, I said, it's got to be at least in the 20s. It might be colder than that.
It was
and then I looked
cold.
it up and then it said -5. Like I didn't wait for the TV to tell me. I actually looked up the weather in Kansas City and said -5.
Yeah. And then you also have the issue with that the field, it's like frozen. So it's like playing on concrete. Like they're like playing on like ice turf, which I know but I have no complaints. No. The truth is that they were a better team. I knew that Kansas City was a better team. And any given Sunday, sure, whatever. But in general, I you know what? I am not a Tua fan. Like, I don't dislike him. He's okay. He's fine. Peter seemed to have convinced me that I think he might be too short. And that makes me sad. But it doesn't matter. I'm just happy that I have a team that has a functioning, like, anything. We've had a coach for more than 2 seasons now. Like, that's big for us.
That doesn't necessarily mean that he's not talented or that he isn't capable of being great. I would not.
I'm not sure what your reason is to definitively say he's never winning a Super Bowl. I'm not going to argue otherwise. I don't know enough about the inner dynamics. Well, I'm just happy to have
because the truth is that when you go back and you watch the game, the one thing that you will notice is that they actually were competitive. It's not like they weren't in the game. It's that when they had opportunities to make plays, particularly when they had that drive, when they were driving, when they were down 16-7, and it looked like they were going to get another touchdown, and then they threw 2 passes, sideline to sideline, including the backwards pass, which may cost them like 10, 15 yards or whatever it was. It's like those are unforced errors as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there were 2, 3, and 13s.
When you're
like,
playing
that's not a good sign.
In that type of cold, you want to put the onus on the defense. You don't have to run trick plays. It's freezing beyond comprehension. You have to literally run the ball and run plays where the defense has to grab you.
You gotta love your like sort of backseat driver here.
I'm not a backseat driver.
You're a Monday morning quarterback.
Well,
Monday night quarterback.
Monday night quarterback. Yeah.
But
on the brightest moment of the weekend though is definitely last night's game between the Lions and the Rams. The Lions, I have a number of very close friends that are diehard Lions fans. They are from Michigan or just Lions fans in general, long suffering for many, many years.
And that's the thing. Detroit to me is another one of those teams that I will always root for because I cannot think of it. I mean, Michigan, they could definitely use like that kind of boost, that kind of win, whatever that would mean to anyone there.
Well, who else is a Lions fan?
Who?
Sean Fain is a Lions fan.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, well,
okay. Well, I didn't know that. And I would still always root for Detroit just because they're so. I don't know. Detroit has been like so abandoned in so many ways, and that whole state just needs some love.
John Fritz starting fighting words.
Oh, John.
Well, I mean, again, we're not here to tell you that.
And you know what, John? What's interesting is that my dad sadly agrees with you.
7 Super Bowls.
No.
Nuts.
But you know what? For me, quarterback is more than stats. All players, yes, I understand ultimately. My dad and I have had this argument. He's like, his numbers are his numbers, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. But to me, quarterback, I come from an era where that was like the team leader. That was the person that actually called plays and everybody sort of looked up to and was somebody that and so to me, when I look at him, he is the antithesis of every great quarterback I've ever liked. He is so full of himself. He's the one when things go wrong, it's everyone else's fault. And when things go right, he's the best. I just find him to have absolutely no humility about him whatsoever. And that's it's very unendearing.
And that's the antithesis of Peyton Manning, which I think is, when you compare the two side by side. But the fact of the matter is, in my humble opinion, Tom Brady is one of the greatest ever who happened to be coached by the greatest ever. And so over the course of the week, as many of you know, Bill Belichick is no longer the coach of the New England Patriots, officially bookending what was a dynasty by NFL standards anyway. It was definitely a Chuck Noll, Pittsburgh Steelers, Jimmy Johnson, Dallas Cowboys, Bill Walsh, San Francisco 49ers type dynasty. If you're talking about the era of the best quarterback of all time.
You would call Jimmy Johnson a Cowboys dynasty before you would call like Tom Landry a Cowboys dynasty?
Well,
that's almost like...
But to be fair, though, the Cowboys only won 2 Super Bowls during the era of Tom Landry.
I know, but I just feel like this just sounds sacrilegious to even be talking. Jimmy Johnson's another one that don't impress me.
Fair enough, but that was one hell of a Cowboys squad. And I will say, though, the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, bar none, is Joe Montana. He's the best of all time.
That's his opinion. See, he thinks Joe's the best of all time.
If you're picking one game, everything's on the line, neutral site, crazy crap, all that. Who are you taking? For me, with everything on the line, I'm taking Joe Cool every time. Every time. That's who I pick.
Depends.
I
don't know. Like there's moments when I think about like when it's like you're however many scores down and it's the fourth quarter. Like I have flashbacks of John Elway doing stuff that was like insane in terms of comebacks in fourth quarter. I don't know. Plus, it also depends on who else is on their team. I don't know who else is on their team. Did they have Jerry Rice? I don't know.
Oh, Ray J with the smart-ass comments. No, we're allowed to talk about sports.
This is his thing. Please, we're just waiting for our guests to come on. We're going to be getting all into that. We'll talk about miserable nonsense soon enough.
Happy for the Lions.
Yes.
For any other teams over the weekend. The games were not entertaining.
He'd love us to have a sports segment.
Buffalo won today. I'd like to see Buffalo beat Kansas City next weekend. I've had enough of the Chiefs. I've had enough of Mahomes and of Kelsey. And frankly, I can't bear the thought of the Chiefs making it to the Super Bowl with Taylor Swift. Basically, they'll talk more about Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl than they will about the game.
Yeah, we need to stop them.
Please, go Buffalo next weekend.
Yeah. I will root for. I don't have a problem with Buffalo. I mean, again, no offense, whoever that was who commented about Brady, but as long as you're not a Patriots fan, we're all good here.
Evelyn, we appreciate anyone's opinion who wants to come on and voice it, but we will respectfully disagree. We are at a crossroads in our country right now, and that's one of the important conversations we will be having with Angela McArdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party.
No.
this is not time to say, oh, but Trump. Again, the reason Trump is likely coming back is because the system is broken. So thinking that you're going to band-aid it again, it's not going to happen. And it's pretty obvious.
I will no longer even concede that Biden's the lesser of two evils. So you know what? You cannot threaten us with Trump. Seriously. Geno Joe has got to go. There is nothing you're going to say to me that's going to make him lesser of two evils
Genocide
anymore.
Joe is a really terrible person. I would have brokered a great deal to stop the fighting in Gaza. But
no, you're an idiot too.
So,
but that's neither here. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, I will. First of all, I will no longer vote for lesser of two evils anymore. I didn't in 16, and then I fell again and pray to that in 20. It will never happen again. But even if I did subscribe to the lesser of two evils theory, I don't agree that Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils. You just don't like Trump because he's disgusting and he's Trump. Sure. But when you look at them on paper and what has been done and what is like happening right now, it's no comparison.
No, you can't.
Environmentally, there's no comparison. Foreign policy, no comparison. And yes, Trump was the idiot who moved the embassy to Jerusalem, which I thought was a horrible plan. But you know, obviously, the Democrats really didn't have a problem with it because I don't see them doing anything to reverse that at any point when they first got in there. So, but yeah, no, Joe is not the lesser of two evils. Sorry, not buying it.
Yeah, thank you, big dumb animal. Da 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 da. Sports Center coming up next. In the latest in the NFL, the system is definitely broken, as Danny Windham so rightfully points out.
Or fixed.
Well, yes.
Or fixed. You know, like it works exactly how it's intended to work. It just doesn't work for us.
Well, I've been saying for a long time that I really do believe that there is a significant amount of crossover between progressives and libertarians on a number of issues, even though economically there is a significant. We're
going to find out what their plans are. You know, we're going to be speaking with the chair of the National Libertarian Party.
We hope.
Apparently,
yes.
We hope.
Yes. Well, we know how things go, and
we know how things go, but we're hopeful.
I made it very clear that it is Eastern Standard Time. I do not know what time zone Ms. McArdle is located in. My wife, I got my Wi-Fi sign. I went out about 20 minutes ago. Okay, get to work. I let myself around.
You got to put that up on the screen almost. No, don't, because it's her email. But
I'm going to tell
you guys can't make this stuff up.
No, you really can't. I am really getting tired of how people just treat us like we don't mean anything.
However, I don't know where she is, but if it could, she says it's weather related. So we just literally got this 9 minutes ago. Hi guys, I'm so sorry, but my Wi-Fi is down. We think it's weather related. It went out about 20 minutes ago and we can't get it to work. I only have my cell phone right now. Can we please reschedule? I'm so sorry. Angela McArdle, chair. That we just got that.
Yeah, again, if things come up, I understand. But the idea that, you know,
it happens for us.
It waits to the last minute.
It happens for us. And the reality is that we're not going to ever, you know, be a priority with our numbers.
That really depends on how much money you're willing to give me tonight, Danny.
Which threats are we talking about?
Oh, I've got plenty. I've got a lot.
See, I don't think Trump can even remember what his threats are from one day to the next, because I don't think he doesn't have any principles. He doesn't have any mission. He doesn't have any values. So he says whatever he says any day at any time. Like there is no, I don't know which mission are you talking about? Like it changes based on his mood and who's whispering in his ear. I mean, he stands for nothing. So what threats?
I would definitely think
he didn't start any new wars.
Trump just really
he didn't get us out of any wars, but he didn't start any new wars. Again, I'm not a fan and I'm not voting for him. I'm not a fan. That's not my person. I am a supporter of Dr. West.
Excuse me.
I'm a supporter of Dr. West.
No, he's a loser. He's a big
loser. But I love
to
see you debate Dr.
Now,
West.
as you understand,
that would be glorious. You guys would want to see a debate between Donald Trump and Dr. Cornel West.
Could you please make a formal announcement that I'm here? Could you please I am here, and this is very important moment here. If you are not aware, could you get your little producer to put up the wonderful news? The wonderful news. Please put it up. Everyone who's here has to see it. It's very important. We have to let everybody see. It's incredible. It's tremendous. I've already been declared the winner, because I'm a winner, not a loser like everybody else. I'm a total winner, a big winner. as you can see, I have officially won the Iowa caucus.
Is it like, well, I don't understand why this is even news. We knew this was going to happen.
Listen,
you knew this was
anytime
going to
I
happen,
win,
which is why it wasn't even worth having a debate with anybody.
anytime I win, it must be discussed. It's very important. And not only am I winning, I am winning by a majority, tremendously.
You're bigly winning.
Incredibly. I am winning by over 50% of the vote. They said I couldn't do it. Believe me when I tell you, we are going to make America great again in 24. And how lucky are all of you to be here this evening for me to make my official announcement that I am the winner of the Iowa caucus on this terrible little tiny channel.
All right.
It just so happens that it's very close to where I live in Mar-a-Lago, and I needed to get away from the cold. It is really cold, and can you believe how cold it is over there? Really cold.
It is called cold. Apparently is affecting our guests this evening because their Wi-Fi is out.
Their Wi-Fi is out, but my Wi-Fi is always up and running in more ways than one. And I am here to let you all know that this is an opportunity of a lifetime to get on the Trump train again. You've given yourself an opportunity. You can see we're winning. We're winning bigly. If you had any doubts, don't doubt anymore. This is where you want to be. You want to be with us.
Chip says, Peter, I love you, but you're a fart in church with that mask.
Oh, believe me, it's only so big because my ego fits it perfectly. So
I think it's actually kind of hilarious just because of the proportionate head-to-hand ratio.
They say I have tiny hands, but that's okay.
And with the T-shirt, it's so funny.
I may have tiny hands, but I have a huge ego, so I make up for it in other ways.
Yeah.
I am here to let you know that as far as the threats are concerned, the only threats I will be carrying out will be on day one. And that could be many. And I don't sleep. So believe me, I could be doing a lot of bad. What a wonderful.
Metal, there is no try. There is do or do not.
I will do as I said I would do. You're all in trouble if you don't get behind me. That's a promise. What do we have down here? I see another clip. I see something else.
I don't know.
Do you have anything to share?
I don't know what you've got going on.
Anyway, it's really great because at least in the GOP, we have a real primary process. Unlike the Democrats, they don't have any process.
There is that.
They are declaring Genocide Joe the king.
Yeah.
And you accuse me of doing wrong?
Well, it is interesting.
Oh, no.
It is interesting because, they, with a president with like the lowest ratings I can even imagine, declare him a winner with no primary. And yet the Republicans, who have a clear favorite, still went through all the motions and stuff. I mean, and of course you didn't grace them with your presence at a debate. And you know what? I got to tell you, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. If I were that far ahead in the polls, I don't think I would entertain, especially I would entertain a debate with those two.
I also want to make an announcement. I know Vivek is on Tim Pool right now. Vivek, I am calling to you, channeling you. It is time to drop out and endorse yours truly.
Why wasn't he at that debate between Nikki Haley and DeSantis?
CNN's, they were totally terrible people. They decided that he didn't have high enough poll numbers.
But yet he's still in.
He's still in, and he's still getting about 8% of the vote. Those are votes that should be going to me.
You know what? And here's the thing, is kind of good for him because, well, no. That doesn't hurt you. It screws both of them, though.
How do you figure?
Because you're already winning it regardless. It doesn't matter.
I'm totally winning. I'm just trying to
so it doesn't matter. But so what he's doing is he's taking it away so that neither of them get like a good, clear amount of delegates either.
But I want to win by the biggest of margins.
No, I know. But this is strategically better because then they end up not getting like either of them, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley particularly, who, you know what, honestly, you should ask her to be your running mate.
That is a really terrible idea. I think you're warning against me. You really think?
No, I think that would help you. I think that would help you. No. I mean, you did have her as your, ambassador. You did have her as like ambassador to UN.
That would be a terrible decision because then it's very likely they'll kill me, and I don't really want to die.
Well, there is that.
So
that's a valid point.
It's a valid
point.
I am a pretty smart person. You may be a lawyer, but I'm a stable genius. So don't get in my way.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty good point.
So.
But it would definitely help electability because you can't go like with the Pence route again.
No, I definitely won't do that. I'm not sure who I'm going to pick yet, but it's my party. I'll cry if I want to, and I want the prettiest girl at the ball. And we'll figure that out soon enough. Make America great again. In 24.
It's just brutal.
So he is. So we're getting an update from Tony Clifton. Donald Trump just under 50%. Ron DeSantis at 22%, Nikki Haley at 21%. Guy speaking, thank you for letting us know. He'll be pissed. Yes, he wants that 50% marker. There's no question that that's what he wants right now.
Tony Clifton. This is hilarious. So, okay, so I've been saying for the longest time, like jokingly, that I think that George Santos is Andy Kaufman. And people are like, what? And that's exactly what I'm thinking of. And it's Tony Clifton. It's just funny because Tony Clifton was the alter ego of Andy Kaufman. Do you not know anything about this? That is Andy Kaufman.
Yes, I think I know that.
Like the picture is Andy Kaufman with like prosthetic makeup.
Metalopoly, you see, this is the thing that you guys need to understand.
But it's Caucus.
Stop with this bullshit about, I don't believe it. I don't care if you believe it. It's a caucus. It actually is happening. Now, you want to say that you don't trust the ballot box. I mean, I can't say that I necessarily blame people for feeling that way.
No, not at all.
But if there's one thing that was universally true when it came to the Sanders versus Clinton race in 2016, is that the caucus race was always going in Bernie's favor. Significantly. The only way that Hillary was able to win was either by hook or crook, and that included strong arming in the most despicable way possible, including Harry Reid, who was the king of Nevada, who basically threatened to fire the culinary workers if they did not get behind Hillary.
Trump's winning Iowa, Trump's winning New Hampshire, Trump's winning. I mean, it's not even like, it's silly at this point to me, but it was silly a long time ago. So
it was.
And yet the Democrats won't have a primary.
No, the Dems think that
they won't have a primary.
They're really
nope, nothing to see here, folks.
But here's the other problem that I don't really understand why people are not talking about it. You know, you're going to have a situation where you're not having a primary, and the numbers keep showing what they're showing. And then let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they decide that Joe's going to step down and they're going to appoint somebody. It could be Kamala, could be Mr. Newsom,
right?
Whoever it is. How do you actually think you're going to garner momentum to win? Like this idea that if we just replace Joe, it's going to totally work itself out.
No.
What universe are you living in?
I know there must be some sort of strategizing behind the scenes with that mindset that, you know, once Joe just becomes so unpopular, we'll just replace him, but that the party will still win because people will be scared of Trump. And the thing is, no.
There's also one other thing that I want to say to you guys, including Metalopoly saying that Nikki Haley is a cross between, you know, W and Hillary. And
actually,
I wouldn't say that that's far off.
That's not
what you have to understand about Iowa is that Iowa is a mix of the heartland and, well, no, it's a heartland state. It's an evangelical heartland state. It is a completely different way of life. I was in Des Moines I was in Iowa for the first time about about a year and a half ago. It is a completely different way of living. And Des Moines, which is the capital, it's the capital of Iowa. It's smaller than Fort Lauderdale. Like these places in these parts of the country, the church is the center of town, you know, good, wholesome, if you will, Christian values.
But working class, farmers,
very much so.
Rural, you know, friendly Midwesterners. So it's,
even when somebody like a DeSantis, for example, rolls in with his evangelical, women don't have the right to control their bodies message type shit, it does work on a number of people that are in that sect of the voting demographic, which does make up a significant portion of the GOP in a state like Iowa. Even still, the fact that Trump is destroying the competition really says a lot about just how popular he is. The time is now to begin preparing. And so here's an interesting point, a guy speaking, and this would go for anybody else. Anybody else. When you look at other races, and I always revert back to what happened here in 2022, when DeSantis and Rubio won in landslides. The one thing that happened was that the Democratic Party as a whole in the state, the down ballot candidates did not have much, if anything, in the way of funding. Yet the top two candidates, Val Demings and Charlie Crist, especially Val Demings, had an astronomical amount of money. Do you want to know how much money the Biden administration raised in Q4 going into this fiscal year?
How much?
$97 million. if they really think that just giving all the corporate money to the head of the ticket is going to save you when his approval rating is basically in the 30s, okay.
They're just, but you know what? It doesn't really, they don't care. They'll just apply that money to the next time around. Like, it's just their money, and it goes to consultants.
At what point do you opt out and say, I'm not playing your game anymore? I'm not falling for this bullshit. Why would you?
Well, it's interesting the amount of people from his administration that have stepped out based on what's going on in Gaza. There's, I mean, not just employees, but appointees.
And don't forget, guys, and this is very important. Don't think for a second that the sole reason they're stepping away is because of what's happening in Gaza. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. This was the last straw. This is like, all right,
no, there are certain people that, based on the fact that their families have just been murdered, I think it might be personal.
Yeah.
So, go figure that people don't want to work for someone who's murdering their family.
And so the argument that Trump will all of a sudden just do the exact same thing is a complete non-starter, because you don't know what he's going to do. And Trump has shown time and time again, he's not interested in war. It's not something that gets him up out of bed. Does he like to saber rattle with the, with the likes of Putin and Kim Jong-un and probably with Xi Jinping? Yeah, it's, of course. But
these are small men. Trump
wants to be the big shot. He doesn't want to get into a quagmire. That's not of interest.
I actually do believe that. I actually think that when he first got elected, intended to get out of Syria, get out of everything. I do. I think he did. But I do think he did fall in line ultimately.
I think because you know who he's
I know who's. He knows. I know who's.
So that's what the.
And so you get it that I've been saying for the longest time. I've been saying I think George Santos is Andy Kaufman.
Maybe so.
This guy will understand it.
But we don't know for sure how much is coming from AIPAC.
Good God.
And one of the wonderful lessons that you can teach people, Jen, that I don't think they're fully aware of is how much this money gets washed through law firms and places like that.
And that's the thing. So people, you wonder, why would they do that? Why would they be raising $97 million or however much money you said for Biden when it really isn't going to do anything strategically? You could throw $1 billion at that campaign and it won't make any difference. He's already at the point of there's diminishing marginal returns. Okay. There's no one else coming on board, no matter how much you pay them at this point. But they really do. So they know that. They know that that's the case. They just don't care. And the reason they don't care is that money fuels a lot of things. It goes to all sorts of consultants, with the WCCC, the white collar campaign carnies, and that consultant class. And those people thrive off of that. And there's just a lot of other type slush fund things that go into that. You could pay somebody for quote unquote consulting. Who knows what that is? So that money gets spread amongst all their friends and their friends' agencies. And yes, their friends' law firms and everybody. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons for them to want to raise money, not just for winning. Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to see what ends up happening. We are going to cover the march, the second march for the people of Gaza. But don't worry, AIPAC and ADL and DMFI, they're going to spend probably another $100 million to have another rally. In
they have to pay people.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. They were offering like college students like $250 and stuff.
Yeah, that's always very entertaining.
Go to their rally. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter because at the end of the day, we see it, and they're not. And for the most part, the perpetrators aren't hiding it. So the fact that they're in a position now where they're sort of forced to deny something that they've been blatantly saying, it's just stupid. Now, the problem will be there is no teeth in enforcement when the ICJ comes down and says, yes, in fact, this is this is genocide. And so we're going to issue a resolution that all this has to cease right now. But the reality is Israel's never followed a single international ruling ever. So there's no reason to think. And I think Netanyahu just said he doesn't care what they say in The Hague. He doesn't care what they say. They're going to do what they're going to do. And Geno Joe will just keep funding them because AIPAC keeps paying him. And the wheels on the bus go round and round.
Round and round.
It's true.
Colin, please cue up Dr. West's speech as well as
For people who didn't have a chance to see it, I did watch it.
As well as the Instagram video march. We want to be able to show people exactly what went down on Saturday in Washington,
And can I please say how cute Dr. West was with the end when she was sort of standing near him and he realized that he was going over? Did you see that at the end of it? Where he's like, am I going on too long? And she went, yeah. And he went, okay, I'm sorry. Like, it was just cute. I don't know. I find him.
Well, he could speak.
I find him so charming, but he realized that, okay, he's got a rap.
Yeah. Colin, please cue up the Instagram video of the march.
Palestine!
People love seeing the Irish
all over the world. No, you know what I loved seeing the most was the Yemeni. The Yemeni in the streets by numbers that just looked almost like ridiculous, chanting that something along the lines of, you want a war, we don't care. We're like, they are. And that is something that countries like the US and the UK and even like Saudi Arabia, you can't beat them. That's why it doesn't work. You can't beat those people.
We have to eliminate Hamas. How are you doing that?
You
how are you doing it? Unless you end the occupation, it will just grow.
And what's amazing is if you did that, it would all stop.
All stop.
It would all stop.
Immediately.
Yes, you will have outliers and crazy people doing stupid shit because there's always going to be that. But it would just all stop.
You know, it's kind of like people forget that the Crusades were started by the Christians and the Muslims were like, okay, well, you started it, but we're going to finish it. And they did. You see, history is always written it's always written from the perspective of those who are in control. When anybody talks about the Crusades, yeah, they may talk about the fact that the Muslims won, but they never really want to address just how significant that was. The role of what the Crusades ultimately represented in terms of the growth of Islam at an exponential level as a result of the Crusades. And here we are today, millennia later, literally, and we're looking at a circumstance where people really think that you can just kill people, you could kill enough people to convince them that having an ethno-state is acceptable. The idea that South Africa speaks up says everything you need to know, and you know that they're sick.
You can try to discredit them all you want. Mm-hmm. Every frigging international human rights legal expert has read that 84-page petition and says it's pretty perfect.
Really, this is where the stupidity.
Yes, actually, we can talk about that, and we can talk about that absolutely. Do people get rowdy and stuff like that? Yeah, sure. And you know what? Most of the time, I have to say, like, I'm always averse to that. Like, I really am not. Like, to me, getting aggressive doesn't solve the problems. But I have to tell you, Metal, as someone who is so enraged and so angry that I can't even see straight. Like, I am losing my mind with this. So the fact that these people are shaking the gate of a house that, by the way, we own
technically,
okay, and that we do, and they're so angry because the people aren't listening. Nobody got hurt. You want to focus on that thing of that rage. If there were ever a time for us to feel that kind of rage, it is right now. It is right now. When I see people outside people's houses like Blinken and Schumer and they're chanting and waking them up, I think that we should be outside those people's houses as soon as you're allowed to, based on noise ordinances pertaining to their neighbors, because there is no need to be disturbing their neighbors. But those people in power positions should not have a moment's peace in public.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Not a moment's peace. I think that you should be talking to them out in every public location that those people, we need to make their lives so uncomfortable and unpleasant that they maybe get that, yeah, maybe I should be answering to the people I actually work for. So I get it. They knocked down the fence.
This second march should be a clear indicator as much as anything. And remember, corporate media is not going to cover this. They may acknowledge that it happened, but they're not going to show you the depth of what it really means. It means that you can't win this. The people every day are recognizing that the momentum is on their side, the momentum that a generational change is actually occurring right now. And there is nothing you're going to do to stop it. You're just going to prolong it. That's all you're doing. And while you prolong it, tens of thousands of more innocent people will be killed as a result. And I hope you are comfortable living with that.
I want to, and here's the thing about it when people are getting violent. I would like to say that it didn't start this way. So, and it didn't start this way with October 7th. So you don't like violence. I don't like violence. It's really unfortunate.
I like ultra
Some
violence.
people like violence. But no, like that's not the preferred method, okay? The preferred method was going to the International Criminal Court. The preferred method was going to the United Nations. The preferred method was doing nonviolent marches. Oh yeah, wait, they did all of those things. They did all of those things. And Israel and the United States made sure they couldn't get anywhere with it. They did all of those things. Then there was boycott, divest, and sanction, which is nonviolent movement from the core of Palestine. And we've criminalized it essentially in this country. So you've taken away every nonviolent means of resistance. What do you think is going to happen? And I got to tell you, it is going to happen here too. Ripping down the fence will be the least of their problems. And if they have to be evacuated for their safety, then maybe they should consider how they're treating their people.
We're going to play you a clip of the one speech that truly mattered, and that is, of course, of Dr. Cornel West.
Word go forth here and now that we are going to hold up the blood-stained banner and the tear-soaked cause of our precious Palestinian brothers and sisters. Not just in Gaza and West Bank, but all around the world. And it is in the name of truth. And the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. It's in the name of justice. And justice is what love looks like in public. Yes, it's indeed true that Brother Martin Luther King Jr. would have been 95 years old on Monday. And he, like myself, comes from a tradition of a great black people who have been hated and terrorized and traumatized for 400 years, but we still here fighting, we still here swinging. So I'm here to let my precious Palestinian brothers and sisters and siblings know that when I think of where I come from, for every generation we have love warriors who are willing to live and who are willing to die. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I'd rather be dead than afraid. I'd rather be a corpse than a coward. We need courage.
I love him.
Talk about powerful.
I love him. That is why, and therein is why I will be happy to be a monthly supporter of Cornell West for as long as he wants to travel around and speak like that.
You know, the way it used to work in the olden days, because those days existed at one time, when it came to the pressures of what it was like dealing with the Great Depression, and no presidency is perfect, even when they get it right, which usually only happens once every probably 2 generations or so. FDR had a heavy dose of influence from Eugene Debs, presidential nominee for the Socialist Party 3 times, I believe, or 4 times it was, and the Communist Party. You have to remember that at the time, and this is going back to 1932, that at that time, when the population in the United States was maybe a third of what it is today, you had 4 million that identified as socialists and over 1 million that identified as communist. So you can imagine how much of an influence that actually had when it came to a policy, which is probably the most popular policy we have to this day in Social Security. You don't get things like that to pass without a heavy dose of influence from the left, the true left. And somebody like Cornell West, when you get a handful of, and listen, we respect the liberals that come in our chat, but we will respectfully disagree. This idea of, oh, Dr. West has to drop out because Trump is going to win. No, you need West in the race, because if he's not in the race, who the hell is pressuring the Democrats to do anything?
I want to address this because Metal's right. He says, Jen, that's the same argument January 6th rioters used. And you know what? If the January 6th rioters were enraged because their people were being genocided and nobody was listening, and they had been occupied for 75 years and they had that level of rage, maybe it wouldn't be as ridiculous as it was. But you're comparing apples and oranges, Metal. You're straw manning and being silly. Okay, we're talking about people that are being genocided, not people that are just angry that their president lost. Okay, big difference.
We need love and freedom in love. Don't let anybody lie on you and say that we here in the name of hatred. We don't hate anybody. We love Palestinians. We love oppressed people no matter where they are, any corner of the globe. You know you're enabling blowing up mosques in Gaza, blowing up churches in Gaza, blowing up places where Jesus himself was born. I'm a Christian. I'm a revolutionary Christian. I come out of the household of Irene and Clifton. I come out of Shiloh Baptist Church. I'm influenced by the Black Panther Party. Don't tell me that you can see what I see and call it meritless. We'll never put up with that. We'll never accommodate ourselves to that. And that's why we call it for more than a ceasefire. We want an end to the siege. We want an end to the occupation. We want Palestinians to live a life of dignity.
Okay. And, you know, it's Metal, and I don't agree with that either. I'm always for fair process.
Metal, there is no question that January 6th became politicized, and there's probably a lot more to it than what meets the eye. And to the average American who thinks that they know what actually goes on, first of all, here's what
I'm against anybody not having due process. But you're just bringing up apples and oranges. We're talking about a genocide right now. Everything else is stupid.
So here's the one thing I'm going to say about January 6th and how it relates to where the populist rights perspective is on this, and whether they feel that there was wronging in the 2020 election, which I do believe there was, not in the sense of what Donald Trump was talking about. But when you talk about the way that big tech manipulates algorithms, like our channel, for example, and I'm not saying our channel had any impact on the election, clearly it didn't.
Clearly not. I don't have any impact on any election. People I vote for rarely seem to win. So,
but nevertheless, that type of manipulation on a global scale is pretty significant. You can hide information, you could project information, you could project false information, and that's a big problem. And that is why there has been such a backlash against the likes of the Musks and especially the Gates of the world, and rightfully so. They deserve it.
But to me, it's no different than any of these lobbying organizations like AIPAC. Like, it's interesting to me that the Democrats are so averse to the idea of Russia tampering with our elections, but they have no problem with the idea with Israel tampering with our elections. It's really amazing how corruption only matters to them when they don't like the party that's doing the corruption.
See, when somebody like JD Party Hat is saying something like this, that means that the jig is up now. Now you can't hide it anymore.
Well, yeah.
And the reason why this is so significant, and we didn't even really get to talk about this, is that there has been discussion at length about the fact that there were feds in the crowd that were basically riling up the crowd, including the likes of Ray Epps, who is on video several times talking about the fact that we need to breach the Capitol and go inside and do what we have to do. Now, this guy not only turned out to be a fed, but do you want to know what his sentence was that just came down? 6 months probation.
That sounds about right. I mean,
like,
look,
we can't fool anybody anymore.
We know that there are plans and instigators, even with Black Lives Matter. A lot of the destruction, a lot of the damage was totally done by people planted to create that appearance, to create that misconception, which isn't to say that certain people didn't get rowdy and violent, because sometimes that happens. But I mean, I went to 14 different Black Lives Matter marches and or events, like 14. And I didn't see one thing. We saw one person get arrested because you remember the thing in Hollywood when we first met Sharami.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, but that guy was asking for
Yeah, some guy came over and he was like just being really provocative, and then he ended up throwing a bottle, and then one of the kids that was protesting just went off on him. So yeah, but it was an outlier.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. But don't focus on the outliers. It's just a distraction.
But that's what corporate media does a great job of, is always singling out the provocateurs, the shaman, the QAnon shaman, and the guy from Florida who picked up Nancy Pelosi's lectern and ran off with it. It's like, and you think somebody like that deserves to go to prison for 20 years? You have Trump derangement syndrome, is what you have. You just can't accept the fact that things are changing.
Well, I think there need to be very, very severe consequences. But for me, It's a matter of, if you think that those people in those pictures that did that were actually going to ever be able to achieve a real coup, like if you actually felt threatened, that's what I was saying before, that our democracy and our institution of our government was at risk from the idiot holding the lectern and smiling, then I just don't know what to tell you. Like, that to me is what's insane. It isn't that they don't deserve to be punished, they do. But to me, basically, this is no different than a very severe high school prank that got out of control and people got hurt.
But you also have to wonder if that prank was deliberately allowed to get out of control.
Absolutely it was. I believe so.
And so by doing that, this is no different than why people are always going to be suspicious about 9/11, about the 2000 election, and rightfully so, because everything is, like 9/11 happens and people think that all of a sudden they wrote the Patriot Act. No, that thing was on the table since, I don't know at what point in the Clinton administration.
I don't know.
Just remember, the only thing we have is each other. We, the people, are the only thing that is going to change our fortunes. Not electing somebody who's part of the system that's currently in place, but recognizing that everything is a process, that you have to rid yourself of a lot of the appendages of the very system that is keeping things the way that they are. You will not get, even in spite of everything that's happening, and even you said this race is over the second Trump starts calling him Genocide Joe.
Oh, yeah. And Trump's nicknames stick.
They stick.
The truth is, Geno Joe is good. And once Trump picks it up, he didn't create that, but once he starts using it and his people, I don't know. I mean, it does have a ring to it.
Yeah, it does. And not in a good way.
No.
But that is where we are. And so I do wonder how this will ultimately evolve. But remember.
Like, here's the thing, people. I will not ever vote for someone who is named in an international document in a court as conspiring to and perpetuating a genocide. It's a deal breaker for me, people. It's a deal breaker.
But Trump.
Yeah, I don't vote for him either. But I'm just saying, like, there's no way I'm ever going to vote for someone who is now named in a case in The Hague for genocide. That's just never going to happen. So, they could, and the truth is, even if they swap him out and put some other idiot there, it's just another idiot that would be doing the exact same thing.
I tell you who's not wanted. I'll tell you who is wanted in The Hague and who isn't. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are wanted in The Hague. Donald Rumsfeld was too, but he's dead now. Donald Trump is not wanted in The Hague, and Joe Biden very soon will be. And that's all you need to know.
I will not vote. I will not vote for someone who is affiliated with a genocide.
You may not like the fact that we do not have that the wherewithal to call the truth out in this country because we are so manipulated by the neoliberal corporate establishment. But on the international scale, people see the Democratic Party establishment for what it really is and has been for a very long time. We did everything in our power to try to change that with Bernie Sanders. And they said, we will sink this country into the seventh circle of hell if we have to in order to make sure he doesn't get in there. Because even if Bernie got in there and inspired a true labor uprising in this country, even if that was the only thing that he did, they could not risk that possibility. Even if Bernie is the most timid play ball at the end of the day within the confines of the party establishment, I'm going to do what I got to do. Even if he were to do that, Bernie's language as a leader, think about how much different things are because Trump became the president and how people gravitated to his message. Think about the voices, whether you like it or not. that were uplifted as a result of Trump and the voices that were put down as a result of Trump being there. Jim Acosta, you're fake news. You're terrible. I'm not talking to you. And you know what? Jim Acosta is fake news, and he is terrible. He has a reputation of being a real scumbag. Now, of course, you can look at, but it's just what? No. The system is rotten. It is rotten, and it needs to break, and it needs to be rebuilt. You don't have to like it. Just like the state of Israel is rotten and broken and needs to be rebuilt. You don't have to like it, but that's just the reality. You cannot allow a genocide to go on. And until there is an end to this occupation, it's only going to get worse. And the fact that you now can connect it to...
And there's certain things I'm not willing to discuss anymore. People are like, what occupation? I don't think people say that. Like, it's
that's
ridiculous. We're so past that now. We're so past that now.
You have to be. I mean, you can't really...
It's silly.
Look at what's... And Arlene, I get it, but never forget that he lit the spark.
He did.
He inspired so many people and so many of us. I mean, listen, Jen doesn't run against Wasserman Schultz if it's not for Bernie. I mean, these types of things happen.
Well, I mean, not necessarily like directly, but yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a chain of events based on how we met and just a whole bunch of different things.
When I was growing up, I always thought, is it even possible that we could have universal? It's too expensive.
But I mean, when you say that, it's like I got involved in politics because of Bernie.
No,
I am way too old for that.
But the one thing that Bernie did say is that it's not us, that you have to take up arms. I can't be I'm not a pariah. I'm not a dictator. I need you guys to get involved at the local level. And you know who did take up arms at the local level? Trump supporters. They did.
Yeah. And they kept it going
100%.
Even post-campaign, whereas down here, at least in Florida, I can't speak for everywhere, but the Bernie progressive, whatever we had going here, it's done.
And hats off to
Bernie. It ended, and then all of them just sort of went away. Nobody, it's just gone.
And, we want to help local non-corporate candidates get elected to office. That is one of our main goals.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get things done. You can't rely. There is nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to support the local Democratic Party or even the state Democratic Party, and then say I'm not supporting federal Democrats. Because there is a difference.
And every state is different, and every candidate is different. We're stuck here sort of in Florida because we live in close primaries and we live in a very blue district. So if we weren't registered as Democrats, there wouldn't be much of us to participate in politics.
Artie Clifton wants you to know that Bernie owes him $200 and Biden owes him $600. Well, I don't know about Bernie. You may have donated $200 plus to Bernie, and Biden promised you that $600 as a stimulus and you never got it. But are you really surprised? The one thing that I will never forget was that even after the election was over and Trump had lost, and he still said, we got to get those checks out to people, and the Democrats made sure that didn't happen. It's like, God damn, can't you just see that this is just a game?
No, the Democrats.
This is a game.
They're not giving.
They don't read. I'm telling you, this image, I really want you guys to understand. And by the way, Donald Trump is now up 53%.
And again, if I were him, I wouldn't have debated those Nimrods either.
Why would you? There's no point.
And by the way, he's like the biggest Nimrod there is. But I'm just saying, if I were up in the polls at that level, I don't know that I would grace them with my presence either.
Probably not.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. But he doesn't need to. He doesn't owe them anything. You know what I mean? He doesn't owe them anything.
I think if there's anything that will encapsulate what I've always felt is the most obvious photograph that really nails the reality of our political system, it's this. This is the image that everybody who knows anything about politics knows, that when you strip away all of the posturing and all
at the end of the day, this is what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah. When everyone is looking away, this is the real relationship between Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell.
It's
frankly,
all just theater.
This is the real relationship between the corporate establishment of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They all act like they hate each other, and then behind closed doors, they all go and have a laugh.
Because here's the thing. If they're all there, whoever shares donors shares an agenda.
Correct.
So when you look at donors that are supporting candidates on both sides of the aisle, they share an agenda. They serve the same donor. So it really doesn't matter what party they're in. It matters what donor they serve. So they all serve the military industrial complex and Wall Street and big pharma. And they're, so they're all on the same team.
And this is when this is what, and again, on Martin Luther King Day, it is always important to remember the topic of
put up the kente cloth picture.
Well, do you have it?
No, not.
But remember the importance of this image and why the MLK. The message of Martin Luther King is simply this: the white moderate is what stands in the way of real progress. Because most of the people who are on the populist right, they're for progress. They may want it in a different way, but most of them, especially in this Trump era, there is this real working class undertaking that's become so massive, and that partly is due to the fact that Bernie got screwed, and they're looking for anybody who's going to champion their message, which is why there's a lot of crossover with the likes of Sean Fain, because people in the UAW like Bernie and they like Trump. So it's not a mistake.
Right.
Somebody like Nancy Pelosi would much rather bump fists with Mitch McConnell than Bernie Sanders.
Oh, absolutely.
So anyone who's on the Democratic Party side and knows that that's the truth and they still prefer Nancy Pelosi to Bernie Sanders, well, that will tell you all you need to know about what their agenda is and how they really feel about this stuff. This is a class war, nothing more.
They're all on the same team.
All on the same team.
They're all on the same team.
They are. Now we're going to play.
Gross. It's so gross.
It is. It's disgusting. But we are going to play you a clip. Colin, can you cue up, just put in the box, the Jon Stewart clip. We're going to give you guys a little bit of a...
What's this?
And that's just more speaking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't need to go that.
Okay.
But this is important because I don't think it's the perfect explanation, but considering how big Jon Stewart's audience is and how many people he's capable of reaching, I do think that this particular message is very important. And I think that what Jon Stewart is talking about in terms of how our money is, well, frankly, just misspent and not allocated properly.
It's not our tax dollars, though.
Well, this is why we have to comment on it. Colin, can you please put it in the box here? The clip of Jon Stewart.
Okay.
All right, so here we go.
The system works. You pay taxes to the government pools that money and uses it to provide the people with essential goods and services that they need.
No.
How does it work, Jen?
No. Now, the first part is right. You pay the taxes. That is correct. We pay the taxes. Okay? The second part is incorrect. The government does not use those taxes to pay for anything. So why are we playing this? I feel like it's almost like a PragerU.
No, it's Jon Stewart.
I know, but he needs to learn MMT.
Okay, well, that's what I said.
Okay.
He does need to learn MMT, but he's not completely off. He's half right.
Okay, so let's think of it this way. Well, I'll MMT it for you people. So we pay the taxes in, and then we're just going to refer to everything as our collective resources. Okay.
In this country, we've got a different system for getting the things we need. Take healthcare. We pay taxes to the government, and the government gives our money to a middleman, for-profit insurance companies or for-profit health providers. And the insurance companies provide health coverage in exchange for maybe some more money from us. And a deductible that covers not everything, certainly not your teeth or your skin or your eyes. It's a pretty good system if you own an insurance company.
And he's 1,000% right about that.
Okay. Let's take his economic sort of assessment as to how the money goes. Like, we don't need to worry about that. But that is so funny. That was really funny.
And it is true that when you really break it down, and what I wish Jon had did there, which I think would have made it the perfect short, is if he showed you, which he didn't do, but you can surmise what the circumstances would be if he said, now let's look at what it would be like if we had a single payer universal healthcare system. You know that for-profit middleman that we had to show you that the money goes to and stops there and then they take and then they send it to you?
Well, because again, he was right that, again, we pay the taxes, and yes, then the government then does give money to the insurance companies. Those are both true. But then those things are unrelated, though.
You could just cut that out. You see, if you had a working government system, which again...
I just don't want to be in trouble with Steve.
Well, here's the thing. the misnomer is that it's government-run healthcare when it's government-funded healthcare.
At this point, quite honestly, we need healthcare.
We do.
And seriously, at this point, healthcare run by anybody
other than these guys
is better. Because if it's run by people that aren't doing it for profit,
but you're going to wait a long time.
You're going to have issues. We wait anyway. Good God.
We'll wait longer.
We wait anyway. Okay, yeah, you'll wait longer. You know what, though? That's life in a civilization. That's how it works. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yes, and JD is correct. That money is simply printed into existence. We get that.
Yeah, totally.
Now, with that being said,
yeah, we're not going to say Jon Stewart's knowledge.
But what you're also showing is that the for-profit middleman has not only zero reason to exist, but they're double and triple and quadruple dipping into resources that have no reason to be there.
That sounds like political consultants.
So,
talk about double dipping.
Triple dipping, all that, working for more than one campaign at a time.
Not just, I
mean, come on. And let me tell you, they're really sleazy. Just like this system is really
It is true. There's campaign consultants.
When you think about it, it's very simple. If you're going to have a spent into existence.
Correct.
So if you have a government-funded system, the money from the government gets printed, goes out, it goes to the healthcare providers, and you pay as part of your taxes the recouping of that money. That's it. There doesn't need to be anything else. There doesn't need to be this slush fund that is the biggest drain on our economy.
Right. Let them print the money and give it to healthcare providers.
Why do you think they spend hundreds of millions of dollars every single election cycle between private insurance and big pharma? And the fact is, you would look at that number and say that's an astronomical number. Yeah, but you'd still get great returns. Still get great returns. And my housemate recently had a conversation regarding this because he was recently at the hospital. And he said, it's really amazing how they nickel and dime people. I'm like, yeah, that's the for-profit system we have. And nowhere is it worse than in the hospel, where you would think that would be the place where they would care about you the most.
Horrible.
That's where they care about you the least. That's where they basically want you to not only get sick, but they send in basically what might as well be big pharma representatives while you're in a disassociative state and also a vulnerable state where you're afraid that something terrible could happen. And they come in there and tell you that if you buy this medicine, you're going to get better. But if you don't get it, you might die. Well,
it's hard to know who to trust when there's a profit motive, which is why we have to remove the profit motive. And that would, and that's one of the things that, and when people who are still very focused on the COVID and how everyone handled COVID, like there's people that really have PTSD from COVID and that whole, how everything went. But, when you have, people trust the system, whether it's what their government's telling them, what scientists are telling them, what people are telling them, you have to remove the profit motive. When people ultimately know that you're serving your own wallet, even if you're telling the truth, it doesn't really matter if you're telling the truth because the appearance of impropriety is such that the entire system lacks the appearance of integrity.
Yeah. And
so nobody's going to trust it. So when things happen like COVID and you have experts telling us to do something, nobody believes them.
Why would they?
And now it's now after COVID, it's now forget it. But it's and the profit motive in our healthcare system is a huge reason that we've gotten to this point with complete lack of integrity in healthcare.
Here we go.
Companies like United Health and Aetna collect 70% of their health plan revenue from government programs. Humana, 90%. These health plan businesses would not exist without our tax money. And it's not just healthcare. It's pharma, oil and gas, higher education. Taxpayers subsidize these industries who then take their profits and we still pay so-called free market rates for their product. It's a classic double dip.
It is definitely a double dip, but again, we know it's not tax dollars. But yes, it is. It's totally a double dip.
Mr. MMT, Danny Wyndham, Jon Stewart is wrong. It doesn't work that way. The government creates the money. Taxes are collected to control aggregate demand for goods and services.
Absolutely. I've been saying it. It's not our tax dollars.
Which is why, Danny, he's half wrong. He's not wrong that there is this for-profit middleman
Right.
that gets stuck in the middle between us and the government-funded
Right.
system.
He's correct on the outbound portion of what's happening from the government. And I mean, it isn't that our tax, if you took out the whole thing about our taxes, that would have made a lot more sense. It's really irrelevant whether it's from taxes or collective resources or they print it into existence. It really doesn't matter. They work for us. It's our resources collectively, and it's not being used for us. It's being used for a few people to profit.
The problem is
it doesn't matter really where the money, like that's kind of,
no, I
mean, yes,
agree.
and it's not taxes, we know.
But where it also becomes a problem is that there is this misnomer that our tax dollars is what funds the government. That's not how it works.
No, not how this works. It does for state and local.
Yes, but that's completely different.
Yes.
And we're talking about it at the federal level, which is where healthcare obviously needs to be funded from.
Yeah, which is one of the problems that MMT people have with the idea of individual states doing single payer.
But because we live in a lackluster country when it comes to political engagement, most people don't want to be involved. If you don't want to have the problems that other countries have, you have to be involved. We could have a great country, but we're a fickle species. We care about shit that is completely pointless.
We need to take certain things off the profit table. We need people to understand. And we need people to understand that being part of a collective, there is a certain, not sacrifice, but kind of. And that's something that other countries and other cultures get. And here, when you say it, you're accused of being communist, but it isn't communist. There's places that aren't communist. Places in, I don't know, freaking go to Amsterdam for, whatever, and talk to the average person about their concept of the collective in a sense, like, do you think everybody should have healthcare? And do you think that everybody's entitled to that? Just their general ideas. And the most conservative people there still have this notion of collective responsibility for the least of these. It's just different here. And they're not communist. They're just, human. The fact that we've somehow relegated the idea of caring for our citizens and the least of these as somehow a political or, somehow a position in terms of political party is ridiculous. Exactly. It is. It's completely about artificial limitation and the end. And it's the people who like to fight with austerity, which, and Steve is right, austerity is murder. And it's just another talking point to get people to be willing to, it's manufacturing consent for austerity. That's what it's doing.
Which is why I'm very disappointed that Angela McArdle did not come on here on her cell phone, because this is something that the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian economic platform espouses. Is that austerity is real, and that we have to adhere to that principle.
I just don't understand. So, this is what I really want to know from people like libertarian people. Like, how would you envision civilization? How do you envision civilization? Do you envision just everybody living in fenced properties with guns and having their own stuff?
Nelson, I'll do you one better. Just watch an NFL playoff game and see how many big pharma commercials you have to play.
It's the worst.
And when I was at my friend's house last night, there was about 7 of us watching the football game, and a couple of them made a comment about how, my God, what is with these pharma commercials? Like, we're one of 2 countries in the whole world that has this in New Zealand. That's it. Every other country. Watch the reaction of the Brits when Meghan Markle married Prince Harry.
Oh, they could not believe the amount of pharma ads.
My God, this is ridiculous. You guys have ads for pharmaceuticals?
And I got to tell you, by the way, doctors hate it too.
Of course. Why would they hate it?
They hate it.
Why would they not?
It's very annoying to doctors when patients come in here and basically demand what they want without having any idea what would be better for them, what their counterindications might be. They have no idea, but they come in and they want what they want.
Well, that's because, again, the whole idea has been fed into their head that the only way that this is possible is if we have a rationing situation, that we can't actually produce what is necessary. Remember, if you think about it, just think about our spending that we do every year. The biggest expense that we have is corporate subsidies. If you just took that out of the equation, and didn't spare us from the fact that we have socialism
and those
for the
are
rich,
people that think that they love capitalism,
and rugged individualism for the poor. The truth of the matter is, and I still believe this to this day, that the banks in 2008, they should have failed. They should have absolutely failed.
Yeah.
Citibank especially should have went under. But only Bear Stearns went under, and there are many reasons why Bear Stearns. Apparently, Epstein had something to do with that one, which is unbelievable.
That's interesting.
No, it's not, because the truth is he was really connected with the highest levels of control in the global ruling class. So it's not surprising that you get to that point, and that's why I always find it interesting, because being in the world that I'm in now, I find it humorous to no end how the average person really thinks things work, especially amongst the super rich. You don't have any fucking clue at all. You have no clue. And I can assure you that when you think that the people who are super rich get away with murder, literally and figuratively, they do. That's a fact.
It's true.
That's a fact. So stop pretending like you know what's going on.
I love when people just label, like when you say things like, oh, that's just conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's conspiracy talk. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's not.
It's not.
Like I said, remember the image of Pelosi and McArdle. That's our political system. That's all of it. Nothing else needs to be explained. Now, are there outliers? Are there people that are genuinely trying to do right by, working people, for example? Are there those who are truly not corrupted by the system that are there because they're truly trying to be a public servant? Yeah. Probably, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10% if you're lucky, and that's probably a high number. 90 to 95% of our federally elected officials are on the take.
Metal, you're kicking down again, okay? There's no point to that. It's not an either or. No, that doesn't sound right that certain people aren't getting their needs met. But no, I don't think it's okay to take it out on people that are just trying to leave horrible situations.
Are you talking about immigration?
And yes.
Okay. Well, again, as I've said many a times before,
and
the
I
whole
loathe
issue,
the idea of calling people illegal.
Well, again, I don't believe in
that.
Well, again, open borders doesn't work.
I'm not saying that you have to have open borders.
However,
what I'm saying is it's offensive to refer to somebody as illegal.
Okay. So non-U.S. How about just non-U.S. citizens? Or non-citizens. Okay, fine. So
how
let's
about just people?
Okay, so non-citizens, and again, the problem here is that the system is breaking, guys, and now people are finally waking up to the reality that the reason why they open the floodgates at the border is because they want to pay slave wage. They do not want what Sean Fain and UAW is doing. They sure as shit don't want what's happening with UAW in Alabama and Tennessee. If that starts happening in states like in the Deep South, now you really have a problem, because now you can't close the lid anymore. And you could bring people in and you could get them distracted. But the truth is, those are just political pawns for the greater cause, which is corporate special interests for the uber well-connected multinational corporations. Their interests are not your interests. If anybody has anything good to say about somebody like Jeff Bezos, you need your head examined. If anybody thinks that Donald Trump is a bigger threat to our country than Bill Gates, you need your head examined. If you think that we do not deserve universal health care, a living wage, ultimate labor power amongst the working class, you need your head examined. If you think that the environment has not been decimated by climate change one way or another, which includes the fact that we don't have clean drinking water, we are poisoned to no end, whether it's with our water or our food, and if you think that voting our way out of this is even possible, you need your head examined.
Metal, it is punching down. The reason it's punching down is because you're creating an either or scenario. You're making it be like, because we're giving them something that they're somehow taking from us, they are the reason, they are the problem. It is punching down. The problem isn't them. We have the resources to help people and help them.
And one thing I will say, Big Dumb Animal, remember, Jon Stewart's explanation was not terrible. It wasn't correct, but it wasn't deceptive. He basically
the average person believes that's how it works.
Yes, he was partially there.
But the principle of what he is saying is that we're being screwed. The principle of what he's saying is we're supporting a system that is screwing us, and people are double dipping. 100%. We're paying twice, essentially, and we are. We're paying collectively, and then we're each paying individually for that. So the principle of what he's saying is true, and yeah. There is that. But yes, it's not, we know that as MMT people, that's not exactly how it works. That's true.
Definitely aware. you haven't smashed that like button, please do. We've got 40 people watching, which is nice. You know, we're certainly appreciative, even though we were stood up again. This has been an unfortunate habit. Even though I will take Angela at her word that, you know, something may have happened with her.
Well, let me tell you, they had to cancel games or whatever it was. But like there is some blizzard that's something horrible happening right now somewhere that looked awful. Like, I don't know where she lives.
Hey, you know, remember, when we talk about climate change, it's not just global warming.
Right, it's not in my head.
Massive storms. And you will not be able to deal with it because the planet is going to, as George Carlin said, shake us off like a bad cold, and that is what they're going to do. So
here's hoping.
You could pretend, well, I know you have the, you know, let's just end it all already type attitude. I would rather try to see if we can solve the problem.
I actually don't think we can, but I am willing to do everything I can to at least do my part to not make it any worse for people that are coming after me. That's my goal, is to like be aware, do better. But
for
no, I don't.
As little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. You get the Lulu sticker.
Join us on Patreon.
Please do. You get to talk to Jen. You don't have to just rely on me to have to handle everything. That'd be nice. I don't want to do all the work.
You do, though, because you'd love to handle the social media.
I do.
I know.
So to some degree.
I know. I just wish you'd stop talking in first person.
$10 will get you nothing but a Lulu sticker. But $25 will get you the Jen Change jersey or
a t-shirt. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys know Peter does our social media, so you know it is a little weird to me when I occasionally see it.
Steve Grossman is right. Person. Yeah, no, I've been hearing this. I was not aware that Jon Stewart on the Daily Show was a union buster. They attempted to do it at the Daily Show, and he wasn't having it. So John, not looking pretty.
That's not good luck.
Not a good look at all.
Be consistent.
You know, he talks a good game. Now he's got to put his money where his mouth is.
Look, we'll call people out when we call them out, but when they're right, they're right. So, you know.
Of course.
It is what it is.
Like I said, I think it's a good thing when he says that we do have a broken financial system, which we do.
For sure.
And more or less was right to a degree, but needs to tweak it. He needs to turn it on itself, which is the government pays, not the people pay the government. That's, you know, again, we don't fund the government. The government prints the money and we are taxed to fulfill our obligations. That's it. It's not hard. I know people want to believe that it is, or that we need to put it on the gold standard. I will say, though, that for those in the libertarian circles, and we have plenty of them, that say that you can't print money endlessly, I agree. But one of the biggest problems that we have in our broken system today is that the money that gets printed only gets circulated to a certain number of people, and they hoard the money. That's what happens. Hence corporate socialism, corporate subsidies, money they don't need or deserve. But because the system's broken and they're looting the treasury, literally, that's what has to change.
Those people are the problem.
They are.
The people that are just trying to escape a life and come here and have a life for themselves and are willing to die to do so, those people will never be the cause of the problems in your life. Ever. That is what I know. What I know is that the people that are just coming, the people at the border that you're talking about, the illegal immigrants, those people will never be the cause of the problems in your life. People with less power than you are not the source of the problem. The problem always comes from the people at the top. The people below you, they don't have any power.
No. They don't.
So they are not the problem. The problem are people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Those people are the problem.
Bill Gates.
Okay. Juan and Maria coming over, trying to get a better life for them and their family. They're not your problem.
Nope, they're not. On Thursday, 1 p.m., we will be speaking with, forward by Alan McLeod. So we're going to be speaking with Andy Lee Roth, writer of State of the Free Press. And this is a very nice book, by the way.
They come out every year. It comes out every year. Project Censored has this where they publish a book and they talk about undercovered and wrongly covered news. So we'll go through it and we'll pick out some of the most, what we think are interesting things, have a chat about it. The fact that we need organizations to put out material like this is very telling. But I think especially right now, I mean, when you watch the media, just forget just that you could have watched Israel's response on every major channel, but you couldn't see South Africa's petition, right? So they're only showing one side completely. But even if you take that out of it, just the wording of everything, the use of passive voice when Palestinians die. Palestinians die. Israelis are killed.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? There's this sort of passive voice, and you can see it all over the place. I mean, some publications are way worse than others, but it's so obvious.
A lot of times people look around once they see it and they're asking themselves, how is this happening? How could they possibly do something like this? And the truth is, a lot of people are asleep. But once you're awake and you see it, you can't unsee it. It's not possible. You see the game that's being run. No, Travers, feel free to email. Is that what the information you emailed? If it is, I apologize. I have not looked it over, but I'm happy to do it. Yeah, I think it's very important that we continue to recognize that the point of the show, even though it's heavily shadow banned, it's heavily suppressed.
It's so unbelievable.
We have to do what we can to continue to get the message out there, which is why, surely but steadily, we are seeing a few new people pop up almost every show. Steve Grossman, we notice that he's new.
Yeah. New people is good. The more the merrier.
I agree. Tony Clifton, I think, is new.
We don't know, because somebody who would use Tony, although I do think he's new.
And we're happy to have you here, Mr. Clifton.
Yes, we are. And the thing is, though, it's I can't quite tell, because when I hear Tony Clifton, it's like it only makes me think boomer age, but definitely somebody with a very good sense of humor.
Evelyn Rasmussen, I believe that you're new. But of course, all of our regulars, Metalopoly, Ray J, Travers, Danny Wyndham, Big Dumb Animal.
Love
of course,
you
thank
guys,
you again.
yeah.
A guy speaking with your all of the contributions really does make a difference. And I have to dance. I got to dance a little bit. But when we're fortunate enough to make $27, it's worth it. It's worth it to be with each and every one of you guys. And of course, if you are so inclined, Joy Reed, Yale Hatterty.
What about her?
Thank you.
What about her?
Don't want to talk about her.
What about her? What did she do? What happened?
What hasn't she done?
Well, there was something I saw of her recently where she actually was covering something well. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was, and the person I was watching was even saying, I can't believe I'm complimenting Joy Reid.
Adidia Paul, absolutely. Too few, too much, in too few hands.
And really what it comes down to, and nobody likes to say it, is it's capitalism. Because capitalism inevitably leads to that. And right now we have completely unfettered, unregulated capitalism running completely amok.
We do.
And it cannot continue.
Now, before we go, I'm going to make a request, since we have 40 of you guys here, which is great. As soon as we kill the live stream, I would ask you all, please, to go to our YouTube feed and click on this live stream once it's been uploaded, which should take about a minute or two. But once it's done, make sure that you did hit the like button, but also leave a comment. If you do that, it's going to continue to hit the algorithm slowly but surely, as Metalopoly points out.
If only I were willing to suckle at the teat.
Corporate teat?
No, the independent media.
Oh, yeah, well.
If we were willing to suckle at the independent teat.
Sappy's got 70,000 subscribers now. Let me tell you, some of the guys, if you're just willing to play ball, if you're just willing to kiss that ring, they'll give you they will christen you with their support.
They'll christen you with their viewers.
That doesn't take away from the fact that a number of them do a really good job of covering important stuff.
Sure.
But there are people that want to be kingmakers in any sphere. And it's not just in that potential, progressive sphere. What you also have are the people that are in the conservative spheres. And they do the same for, the likes of, let's say, Tim Pool or, Steven Crowder, Dave Rubin.
What bothers me is that when
Ben Shapiro.
What bothers me is that even like people that I like and respect, like content creators who I follow, and I'm not gonna be picking at it because it just defeats the point. But certain people I feel like are obsessed with calling out other certain content creators, and certain content creators are fixated on one other particular person. And it just looks it's just not a good look to me.
That includes people that you like.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. It does include people
that I like.
And
I know one person you're talking about.
And it does include people that I like.
But it works for their channel. Because
I know, but it bothers me. It bothers me because I feel like we're better than that.
Sure.
And the best way to sort of counter the negative information, what people are doing, like, isn't to keep calling them out. It's
yes, unfortunately, Tony Clifton, she is well, yeah, to some degree anyway.
What?
That DWS is still a queen maker.
Oh, it's less so than it's ever been. It's definitely at a low. A lot of the connections that were there aren't there for her anymore.
Travers,
she's burned a lot of bridges.
Travers, the problem with Jimmy is not that he doesn't do good work. It's that he is so ego-driven, and there are things that he does that are almost exclusively self-serving. He'll cover very important stories, which we're appreciative of. He even has guys on there that get a boost, and it helps them. I think Mike McRae is hysterical. He did the Hillary. Have you ever heard Mike McRae do his Hillary supporter shtick?
I don't even know who that is.
It's so funny.
I don't know who he is, but anyway.
But ultimately, those types of channels are not on the mission.
No, I know. I knew you were being sarcastic, Travers. And I don't mention names because there's no point. But the reality is whatever field you're in, whatever it is you do, there's generally a way to advance by sucking up to someone, right? Like whatever that is, there's always sort of like a piper you could pay to get somewhere faster, right? Whatever that is. And some people do it and they happen to be decent anyway, because it can work out that way. And some people do it and they're not good at all. But I just find it disappointing when people who are really smart and have good platforms spend their time constantly criticizing other content creators. I just feel like we could do better. Yeah,
I think we can. And but I also think that if people were smart enough to recognize that we really do need each other, and that, cross-pollination is an important thing, even with somebody who's in charge of the Libertarian Party, let's say, that conversation matters. And the reason why we don't play in the sandbox with the Green Party is because the Green Party is a disaster. And that's on them. You know what the big difference is?
And when he says we don't play in their sandbox, he just means in terms of we're not affiliated in any way. But yet if Cornell West is not on my ballot, then I'll most likely be voting Green. So, that's how that goes. So you could say whatever you want about the Green Party, but and yes, Jill Stein also spoke at the march and was also was great. And yes, I would support her definitely.
The fact is, and thank you, Ray J. Good to know that the Eagles are done. The fact that
Tampa Bay won.
Well, not yet, but my guess is that the game is out of reach at this point. So,
cool. Go Tampa Bay.
Go Lions.
I have a lot of family that lives in Tampa, and people, and I am not kidding you, what we call people from Tampa. Okay? It's tampons.
Travers, we will agree to disagree.
I'm saying that.
We'll agree to disagree.
Yeah, we don't agree with that. Not everybody is on our mission, and that's just the way it is.
That's true.
It's just the way it is. But yes, we do call people from Tampa. In my family, we would call them the tampons. And even when I still talk to my mom, I'll be like, have you spoken to the tampons? Because it's like my aunt and 3 of her kids and the grandkid, it's a whole sort of, I'd say, wing of the family, if you will, are in Tampa. And so I do have a certain love. What are you pointing at?
If we can end on any note, I guess the note of Tony Clifton will leave that to the masses. But I'd like to think that
this is the thing, is that so Tony, this is somebody that I actually would want to meet. This is when I see somebody and I'm like, I think we should meet sometime. Join on Patreon. Send me a message.
Yeah. Come on, Tony.
But no, I think that that is certain people I just get totally, I think I would
just know that they're
just based on that. Yeah. Just the fact that that's just based on Tony Clifton. That is somebody that I can appreciate.
If you don't want to put your credit card on the grid, you can always go over to Cash App, $GenChange. Any amount is obviously tremendously appreciated. We love super chats and we love YouTube members, but we always encourage those to go directly to the source where you don't have to give Google any of your money. They certainly have enough. Henry Kajawa, you finally got here. It's taking you so long. We're about to go off the air.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, guys, like I've said, Dr. West is my candidate that I support, my monthly, because I love his message. So the more he gets out and spreads his message is all good by me. But I do have to be realistic that depending on what happens with ballot access for him, I don't know that the Greens get on the ballot here. So I know that at least I will have that option. Because what else is there? Everyone else is supporting a genocide.
This is the type of quality content that we get on our channel. This is what's very important.
Oh, for God's sake.
You mean now, Henry, are you suggesting that we
save them from what?
Save them from
how much older should they get?
Well, remember, Mussolini was captured and they hung him out in the town square. They literally like drawn and quartered him.
Why would we save either of these people?
Yeah, like
I don't understand this question. Put that away. I don't understand this question. That's a silly question.
Oh, I was watching a Columbo. Okay, well that explains it.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm like, why are we that's a bad choice. Again, that's like asking me my favorite disease.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite disease. I often think like if I could like go back in time and meet people or talk, I think those things all the time.
Like when you think about the Nazis and, you know, if people could have talked to Hitler, if he was being prosecuted the way that Adolf Eichmann was being prosecuted and trying to get rationalization behind how you could commit mass genocide on the scale that they were able to commit it on, there is really no explanation.
I want to address this. I like Dr. West as a person, but he only talks about social justice and doesn't talk about the economy or anything else really at all. Here's the thing though, okay? When you look at the world through a lens of social justice, everything else falls into place to serve the most people. So when you're somebody like Dr. West, he isn't an economics expert, but would he surround himself with people that are? Of course he would. And his mission is to help the least of these and the most people that we can help. So with that in mind as your mission, and you surround yourself with really smart people, we can get all sorts of stuff done. So the reason he doesn't talk about specifics is because he's focused on the big picture and the priorities. And once we have the priority of social justice in our minds, it will be affected in everything that we do, especially in our economy. So that's where Cornel West is.
I definitely agree with that. And I think that Cornel West, especially right now, and the further we go into this election cycle, his voice is as necessary as it could ever possibly be.
Just seriously.
And again, is he going to win? No, but that's not the point.
No.
Like you got to stop looking at it as, well, who's going to win? Right now, it's not a foregone conclusion. But if you're a betting person, the person who's the next president is Donald Trump.
But when I look at campaigns, and I've said it a million times, it isn't just about the person. It's about the message and the mission and what they're out there doing.
And let me assure you of one thing. And I will say this. Now that Donald Trump has not only won the Iowa caucus, but he has won it in a landslide. The more that he racks up these wins, he's going to go into New Hampshire next week and he's going to crush it there. If the Democrats, this is the backdrop, now it's obvious that this is
the only thing that's potentially challenging for him is South Carolina, and I get that.
Sure.
Because of Nikki Haley, but
with that being said, if he universally wipes the floor and the Democrats still want to try to legally take this away from him, you want to know what will start a civil war in this country? That's what will start it. Beat him at the ballot box if you can, which I don't think you can, because you're not willing to do what is necessary for working people to change the fortunes of those who desperately need it.
They'd rather allocate their resources to kicking Trump off the ballot and suppressing a primary.
Hey, they got to raise $100 million in water to do that.
They would rather spend their resources suppressing Trump than helping people.
And by the way, and can I just say one thing? The last thing before we go. And I didn't want to turn this into a segment, and we're not going to do it because it's so fucking pointless. But what's the attorney? I know Metalopoli knows the answer to this one. What's the name of the attorney general who's prosecuting Trump in Georgia?
Oh, the woman.
It's a James. It's not Letitia James because that's New York.
No, it's
guys.
It's a three.
What's the name of the
three-name name?
What's the name of the AG in Georgia?
Face something.
We need the name of the lady in Georgia who is prosecuting.
What about her though? You're talking about the state attorney in Atlanta.
Okay. So you can't make this up. So it turns out that Fannie Willis, yes, Metalopoli. See, I knew. See, if anybody was going to know, I knew Metalopoli would know the answer to this question. So I don't know how many people know this or not, but Fannie Willis is why?
I meant to delete it.
Okay, just
delete it. Well, just delete it.
Okay, you're blocked and you're gone.
Well, I just think it's a bot.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, I know. It's not a person. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't trying to put that. I was just like, I wasn't doing it.
So for those of you who may or may not know about Fani Willis, the Attorney General, who most people think that the best case against Donald Trump is the case in Georgia. Well, I've got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. It turns out that Fani Willis has basically been looting the state attorney's office, including hiring a state attorney for this case that she's been having an affair with for several years, and apparently has funded.
We need to get Michael Owens on.
I'm not kidding.
We need to get Michael Owens on about this shit, because he probably knows a lot.
He should be the Attorney General right now.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's an attorney. He should be the
Secretary of State. Yes.
But we should have him on, because he knows this shit.
So we're not just talking about a little money. We're talking about the tune of a minimum of $600,000 to $1 million was going through this person's office. And
this is who's suing Trump.
With all due respect to Breonna Joy Gray, who you can say whatever you want. This case in Georgia, it's over. You are never. First of all, it's going to get thrown out, and they will have legal grounds to do it because they now have proof that there was collusion between the Attorney General's office and the prosecutor's office. Are you fucking kidding me? A case at this level, and you're going to fuck this up? That's why I'm convinced that there's no way that this is not rigged. Like, how could it not be?
You can't make
this is kabuki theater. You have a case of this magnitude, and you're going to be carrying on an affair, and you're going to basically be allocating money, and not just any money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're going to wait. Crazy.
I wouldn't be so. Is all this stuff like newly revealed information?
Yeah, this came out.
She might end up stepping down.
She'll have to.
I don't know how
do you go on with this case?
We need to bring on somebody from Georgia.
And I don't know what Brianna was covering this on Rising, and I don't know.
Who was she talking to?
She was basically speaking in defense of Fani Willis to some degree, and it's like there is no defense.
It isn't about defending her personally. I have no problem with people doing all sorts of personal shit.
That's their business.
But have at it.
But
when you're a public employee and the corruption is, then you're screwing the regular people.
And apparently, this prosecutor has like no experience at this level whatsoever. That's why, like I said,
what concerns me is, and because I don't know the background, I'm not going to speak about this person because I really don't know anything about her, like as an attorney or anything that she's done. But a lot of times people are sort of put as sacrificial lambs in positions because the powers that be would rather them be hung out to dry than somebody else. It's happened a lot of times, like you could honestly, when you think of, what's her name? Or Christopher Darden and Marsha Clark. Marsha Clark got hung out to dry.
She did.
And
she wasn't good at her job.
And she shouldn't have been doing that.
And Christopher Darden was even worse.
My point is that people get put up as a sacrificial lamb. I don't know enough about Fani Willis to know who she is and what the power players are to make any sort of assessment as to the situation, but it doesn't look good.
And it's like when you look back at the OJ case, and everyone always insisted that even if he was given, and rightfully so, a jury of his peers, the fact that the OJ case was tried in Los Angeles County Superior Court and not in Brentwood, everyone insisted that that's it. You're throwing the case away. Like you're deliberately figuring out a way to make sure he gets off. And this is sort of the same thing with Trump. And I'm not suggesting that this has all just been kabuki theater from the very beginning, but I got to tell you, it doesn't look good. And the reason I get so heated over this is not because I want to see Trump thrown in prison. That's not the point. The point is that justice is not being done, and you make a mockery of the judicial system by doing something like this. This is not an offensive foul. This is a complete and utter dismantling of the legal system.
It's a mockery.
How could you ever allow something like this to happen? And you had to know that this.
That's what makes me think that she's being. That's why I can see
for something else.
No. Used. But that's why I could see, and again, I don't know enough of the backstory, but that's why I could see somebody like Breonna Joy Gray. Like I'm sitting here thinking, why would she be sort of defending it to some extent? And maybe that's why I don't know enough about this.
And this is where I agree with you, Metalopoly. This is where that race card kills social movements, because now the individual is only looking out for themselves and trying to cover their own ass.
Well, see, and that to me, and again, I don't think that. I think just as easily it could be a white man that they'd be hanging out to dry.
Sure.
Whether or not she's being used and manipulated. Now, whether or not it was easier to do that to someone who is a woman, who is a black woman, who doesn't have necessarily the same
real.
options.
Oh, this cannot be real. Oh my God, best boomer Vito. What the
hell? Who are you?
Yeah, really. All right.
Oh
listen,
my God.
If you want
Dr.
us,
Shiva.
I wish you would have given this on Cash App, but nevertheless, do you want us
Dr.
to
Shiva for
Dr.
20?
Shiva? Shiva.
Oh, you mean Vandana?
Yeah.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
She can't, but she's not an American. She can't run.
That doesn't mean that she can't come on our show.
Let me tell you something. If you can get her, I would love. I'm trying to think. Who are you talking about? I would love to talk to her.
Best Boomer, with that type of donation, I'll figure out a way to get her on the show.
Oh my God, I'd love to talk to Vandana. I mean, she's one of my favorite people, but you know, there's definitely issues when we talk to people across the pond in terms of timing. But even that aside, I mean, oh my God, she's the shit. I love her.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you, oh my God, I'd love to talk to her.
The truth is that I've been trying to get her attention for a long time, but she never really goes on social media, at least not on X. Twitter.
She's actually walks the walk. She's doing some serious shit. She's got
oh my God, Nancy, where have you been? Mwah,
hey!
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Yeah, Nancy LaPierre. Okay, it's nice to see you. That's nice. That's local people.
But without question, we would absolutely love to have her on.
Absolutely.
Nancy, please reach out through email if you can.
If you know a way to get her on.
I'll have her on in a heartbeat, 100%. And my point is, and to bring the conversation full circle, just remember, when Trump was in the office,
shaking,
the corporate establishment was making money hand over fist having him there. He is the ultimate P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
He is an attraction. He is the only thing good going in politics from a rating standpoint.
Right.
That's it.
It's pathetic.
There isn't anybody else.
And all the Democrats would have to do would be do something.
Bernie was such a curmudgeon. He didn't care.
No.
He never wanted the attention.
Bernie with the mittens is still classic to me. I will never get, that was the best when that was like the number one trend after Trump's inauguration was Bernie pouting with his mittens. That to me was so funny. I could not. And then people kept superimposing him in all these different scenarios. That was one of the best times ever. I loved that.
But if Fani Willis is going to do what she's going to do, and knowing the magnitude of the case, and knowing that any infraction in this particular case, the one case that whether it was Jordan Chariton, Sam Seed, universally everyone said the one case that they thought they could get him on was in Georgia. And now this is coming, it's over. And now he is apparently up by another 10 points in Iowa.
You guys are just spinning your wheels. Why don't you spend your energy helping people and coming up with solutions that will make people want to support you and not him? Why don't you spend your energy that way? System. It's just so unbelievable. It's like the 90s called, they want their politics back. If all you're going to do is just talk shit about him, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. A lot of people, it actually pushes them to support him because they see him as being somewhat persecuted. Now, that doesn't work for me. I think he's a douchebag. I've never liked him. So I wouldn't support him anyway. But I can see how it would push people. And as someone who is extremely just liking to be defiant, it's almost like if you tell me I can't vote for someone, oh, I'm going to vote for them. That to me is just a matter of principle.
Yeah, like coming on here and saying, don't vote for Dr. Cornel West. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, at least in the state of Florida, you know this state is going to Trump.
And I may not even have an option to vote for. I hope I do.
Yeah.
I hope I do. I'm voting. I am done. I am not voting for the lesser of evils. And again, that is coming from someone who innately thinks that Joe is the lesser of.
Danny's right.
Oh, of course.
They don't care.
But when we get things like that, the whole thing is with the voter shaming. Here's the thing. It only works if Biden were the lesser of the two evils. He isn't. So once you don't see him as the lesser of two evils, and I do not see him as the lesser of two evils, then you can't vote shame. Vote shaming only works if we're scared of the other evil.
And I also
that doesn't work now.
And again, on the surface, and I've been saying, you guys who've been following the show know I have been saying this for a very long time, practically for his entire presidency, that it is President Blinken. And when somebody who is a cold-blooded bastard the way that he is, Blinken just presents himself better than John Bolton. That is the only difference between the two of them. They are equally as bloodthirsty and as hawkish and chicken hawk, mind you, because these are two men who would never in a million years pick up a weapon to defend this country. But you better believe they would drop holy hell on everybody to prove how masculine.
And to all the people that are standing outside Blinken's house with the megaphones and keep it up, with him, with Schumer, with all of those people, they should not have a moment's peace when they're in public. However, I do caution the people to be courteous of neighborhoods because, you know, there are neighbors and there's no, just because somebody is unfortunate enough to have to live next door to Anthony Blinken doesn't mean they should be woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
No.
But I do think that once any of these people are out in public, that they should not have a moment of peace.
And they're not going to, because if the march over the weekend is any indication, you think that's the last one?
They're just going to put up a bigger fence. They're actually going to, what they're going to do now, mark my words, they're going to double the perimeter, which they did for a while when Trump was in office because people were doing stuff. They're going to just now create another fence perimeter further back from the gate. They can keep doing it. Like seriously, the level of violence is dictated by the oppressor. So when you, and by doing that, that's pushing one more step of violence. So keep it up. Keep it up. I mean, I'm watching with popcorn because you can only push people so far, and you take away nonviolent means of protest. That only leaves one option.
Like I said, I don't like getting heated. I think it's important to maintain a certain level of, professionalism when we're doing the show. But when I read what I read about Fani Willis, I just thought this is unreal. Like, this is unreal that this could happen. There was no way that it's one thing if she's having an affair with the guy, but the fact that she hired him for the prosecution for this case.
Let's address this, because Big Dumb Animal is right. Some would say that the LGBTQ plus immigrant non-white communities would say otherwise about the lesser of two evils. And that's right. And the reason that that's right is from continuous propaganda pinkwashing and the like that goes on, wherein you're convinced things like, well, Israel's better because you could be gay there. No, that's not how this works, okay? We don't use our social arguments to justify oppressing any other groups of people because somehow we think that they help one group over another. That is right there. And he's right, though, they do say that because they are pinkwashed to believing that. Guys, look up pinkwashing. It's a real thing. It's on fire right now, and we should just all be aware of it and call it out when we see it. But that's what that is. And you're right, they do use that. They use that. Oh, well, we're better to the LGBTQ community. You know what? I'm watching a whole bunch of people with signs saying queers for Palestine and such that are screaming at the top of their lungs to not fall into buying this pinkwashing bullshit. So I'm just saying, note who you're listening to. If you're thinking about people from the Human Rights Campaign or HRC, note that one of the big sponsors of the Human Rights Campaign is Northrop Grumman. So even though they speak for the gay community, they're the Human Rights Campaign. I used to be a supporter of HRC, the big equal sign, but you have to look at the intersection between the militarism and those issues where they're pinkwashing us, because people in those communities that truly know what's what, like the Queers for Palestine or whatever the sign is that I saw this group, they know that this is how this is being used, and that their communities, specifically the LGBTQ community, gets used and manipulated to support shit that they really would not otherwise be supporting. So yes, you're right, they fall into that, but we need to be aware of that.
So with that said, Sandra, Travers, Ray J.
Metal, the reason I don't really talk about him is he's just not that high in the poll. I mean, honestly, I haven't really talked that much about the primaries because
we can talk about that on Thursday.
We can talk. It's not going anywhere.
Vivek is clearly going to be around, and he is.
We have talked about him.
He's most likely the heir apparent right now to Trump's movement. And the truth is, between Vivek and Ron DeSantis, there's no comparison. I think Vivek has some humanity in him. I don't think DeSantis has any.
I want to read that, and you're covering it. Yeah, I hear you. There's no accounting for narcissistic personality disorder, and unfortunately, politics is rife with those people.
It is.
You can't even. There's so many people that have that in this industry. It's just insanity.
And again, that's why it's used as a weapon and not anything of good.
Yeah.
So
it makes it very hard for people that aren't like that to be in this. And that's why so many people that are the people like your Shama Sawants of the world, like the people that you would want to be your representatives, they won't get any closer to it than they already are. Because in order to really get any closer to it, it's like it's icky. Because there's so many people that are just in it for themselves that are serious narcissistic personality disorder. Like, it's rampant.
Yeah. Well, we haven't given up hope just yet. So we're very grateful. And because we decided to stick around a little bit longer, we got the biggest donation.
And it's not hopeless, Tony. I don't think it's hopeless. I think that in the grand scheme of the universe, humans will be a blip. But in terms of people being able to have better existence than they have now and potentially living more peacefully and coexisting, I do like to hold out hope for that potential. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. Like, create a sort of regenerative, sustainable, as peaceful coexistence as possible. And it starts, quite honestly, with kindness. And Cornel is right that, justice is what love looks like in public. And that's very important to think to me. So like that, again, this is why I support him, because I think that we need to just keep thinking this way. And I am hopeful about those things. I'm not particularly hopeful about like the longevity of the human species in the grand scheme of the universe. That I'm not hopeful about. But I do think that we can reach a point where we're treating people better and living better than we are now.
Great way to end it.
Exactly. Okay. That's a good.
I was going to be happy with $27 tonight, but we ended with $327.
Oh, Nancy.
You have to give her a call. Yeah, we'll try to get Dr. Shiva on. That would be a great conversation.
Are you still local? Is Nancy still local?
Nancy lives in, I think she's in Martin County now, if I remember correctly. Okay. Beautiful home.
Local-ish.
Local-ish. Not totally out of the woods.
Local-ish.
Yes.
She's probably moved somewhere where it's pretty and
more
rural.
Quiet.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the truth is there's just too many people. No. Oh, I know who you're talking about. That's who she's talking about. She wasn't talking about Vindana. She's talking about the guy who's running, who's something else. It's somebody who's running. That's what I'm talking about. You're missing something. She's wanting us to, well, you know what, Nancy, we will investigate and we will talk about this. Yes. But yeah, I'm like, because why would Van Don? And I'm like, oh, I'd love to talk to her. But yeah, I don't think it's a Republican person, is it? She said it's not red or blue. Who else is running?
That's a good question.
I think it's, oh yeah, is it this guy? Wait, hold on a second.
Dr. Shiva.
Yeah, I think this is him. I think this is who we're talking about.
Well, it says is a doctor.
Wait, is that the same person who we're talking about right now?
Is it Shiva Ayanduri?
I'm never even going to try to pronounce that. I'm going to see something if we can figure it out. Hold on.
Yeah, Ayanduri garnered a vote running as an independent candidate for Senate in Massachusetts, ran Republican Party in the 2020 U.S. election, but lost to Kevin O'Connell in the primary. Promoted claims of election fraud that were shown to be false by fact. That's always good. That's always good because Wikipedia is always
romantically connected with Fran Drescher. Not
interesting.
Has been in the past. Interesting.
Well,
interesting. They split up in 16 though. That's unfortunate. I'd be happy to comment. I just don't know enough about him at this point to do so. Like I wasn't even aware that there was somebody else running.
Idea, we are not going to. Oh, President. Yeah, well, we could definitely get him on. I mean,
so it's another independent candidate. We'll reach out.
Sure.
We'll reach out, Nancy, and see if we can, if we can talk to him. I'd be happy to have an independent candidate come on the show.
1,000%.
I don't know enough about him. And quite honestly, the amount of independent candidates that are running right now, regardless of my personal opinions on everybody individually, it just pleases me to see it, because it's definitely anything that helps against the duopoly.
Okay, Adina, I'm sorry if you are.
I can't read it because you're covering it.
I'm sorry if you're a little soft, but that's funny. Okay, it is funny, and if you don't think so, then you need to, lighten up a little bit.
Okay, you're saying this guy ran that?
Yeah.
Seriously? Okay, now I love him.
That's funny as hell.
Now I love him.
That is hysterical.
Now I have to talk to him. I think that's freaking awesome.
The fact that
that's so good.
The fact that Elizabeth Warren calls herself Native American, even though she's less than 1% in her DNA.
And by the way, this gentleman is literally Indian, which is so funny.
Okay, fair enough. I think that that's great. And so my point is, if you're going to apply for colleges and call yourself Native American, you deserve to be called Pocahontas and everything else in the book. And for every other person in polite society who doesn't like that shit, that's too bad. We live in a world where humor is it's the soul. That's what makes it worth living, is to be able to laugh.
Here's the rub. Okay, so Nancy, here's the thing. He is not natural born. And that's a problem.
Yeah. If Cenk Uygur can't, then neither can he.
I mean, it is a problem. And I understand that it can be changed, but it's not going to then that's the project to work on right now, but not for this election. But I mean, I'd be happy to have him on and talk about that, though.
Sure.
But yeah, to me, it's like, and I don't necessarily say.
It's probably an email.
I don't necessarily say I agree with the concept, but that you have to be or not have to be. I mean, we can definitely discuss that and talk about amending the Constitution and all of that. But someone that is not natural born here as of right now is not a viable candidate. So the fact that they would be on the ballot.
Dr. Shiva claims he invented email. So we're definitely going to have to talk to him. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Donald, can you write in Florida? Yes, Sandra, you can write in Florida.
Yeah.
So with that said,
that is so funny that was his billboard. Because now you're talking about somebody that clearly has a sense of humor. Yeah. Now we're talking, because that's really funny.
And for those who like, how could you insult?
Why not vote for a real Indian?
Because it's funny. It just is.
And quite honestly, he's the Indian. No one else has any. Who else could be offended by that? He's referring to himself. Like it's beautiful.
Yeah.
She referred to herself as a Native American. That's so funny. Mocking the fact that Americans still call them Indians, also funny because we're so obtuse. And the fact that he's mocking both of those things at the same time is just excellent. I think it's very clever.
And we would agree with that. If we are changing the natural born rules, Kshama Sawant would be the number one.
That, and I just don't know that she would want to.
Probably.
I don't think she wants to go back. I think she likes being on the outside.
The labor movement.
Yeah, I think she likes being on the outside. She realized that she was probably, her level of effectiveness electorally probably ends at that city council level based on where she is right now on the spectrum.
She would be the perfect VP for Dr. West.
Oh, yeah.
Smash that like button.
But she's foreign born, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things.
What is she?
To Nancy, to Donald, James, Henry Kajawa, Chris, Garrett, Big Dumb Animal, Tony Clifton, Adita, Paul, Dr. McG, JD Party Hat, Metalopoly.
Yeah. She was
Sandra Looney.
She was born in India. I wasn't sure. For some reason, I could have sworn I thought she was
Clifton,
Canadian.
Base Chat Thunderjock, Nelson Ortega. Ray J, of course. I hope I am not forgetting anybody. I know that there's probably more. Chris Garrett, of course. Steve Grossman. Danny Wyndham. Let's see if anybody else I've forgotten. Golden Bear checked in. Great to see you. Travers, of course. Can't forget Travers. He is definitely the comic relief of this channel.
I did see that Emma Stone won the Golden Globe for that role that she played in Poor Things. And I want to say that it was really, really good. The movie's very strange.
Arlene Chambers.
I will say that, guys. If you see Poor Things, it's very strange. It's a very surreal kind of bizarre thing. And I would also, and I didn't go with my kids, don't do that. don't go see that with your kids. Really, at any age, don't go see that with your kids. And if you're kids and you're an adult, don't go see it with your parents. But it's really good and just very strange.
Donald Trump wins the Iowa caucus in a landslide.
Don't you what's better, that or Emma Stone winning a Golden Globe?
What?
What's more interesting?
I could care less.
Okay, well, that's how I feel about Donald Trump winning the Iowa caucus. I like talking more about Emma Stone.
Okay, well, just pointing that out. We will have, remember, Andy Lee Roth.
No relation to David Lee Roth.
Author, I'm sure that his parents were thinking that when they named him. Author of Project Center's State of the Press 2024, Thursday, 1 p.m. Make sure to tune in. We're going to have Ryan Grimm on soon, hopefully next week. Thank you very much.
He's been very elusive.
Slightly.
Did you hear from him?
Yes, he actually apologized and asked if he could come on this Thursday, but I was not going to bump Andy to have him come on. Just say, listen.
Okay, because he didn't message me back, but he might think that he's talking to me on the email because he didn't text me back.
And yes, we will have Dr. Shiva on.
We will. We'll reach out.
We will make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things we ask you to do. We'll see you Thursday.